List of modern artists.
This is a list of modern artists, important artists who have played a role in the history of modern art, dating from the late 19th century until the 1970s. Artists who have been at the height of their activity since that date, can be found in the list of contemporary artists. Add names in alphabetical order. A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z. Frank Auerbach, Nadia Afonso, Yusuf Agam, Joseph Albers, Pierre Alachinsky, Nathan Altman, Irving Amen, Konstantin Andronov, Karol Appel, Felix Arouz, Alexander Archipenko, Mino Argento, Arman, Jean Arp, David Ascalon, Edward Avidizian, Milton Avery, Alice Aycock, Francis Bacon, Giacomo Balla, Balthus, Vladimir Baranov-Rossine, Romer Bearden, Max Beckmann, George Bellows, Thomas Hart Benton, Jose Bernal, Joseph Beuys, Ralph Albert Blakelock, Norman Bluhm, Umberto Boxini, Alexander Bogomazov, Pierre Bonnard, Fernando Botero, Louise Bourgeois, Constantin Brancusi, Georges Braque, Marcel Boudtheres, Joan Brown, Daniel Buren, David Berlayuk, Vladimir Berlayuk, Paul Cadmus, Alexander Calder, Joseph Capek, Norman Kohlberg, Emily Carr, Carlo Carra, Clarence Holbrook Carter, Mary Cassatt, Carlos Catas, Elizabeth Catlett, Vigus Elmins, Paul Cézanne, Mark Chagall, John Chamberlain, Giorgio de Chirico, Dan Christensen, Charles Conder, Theo Constanti, William Copley, Joseph Cornell, Tony Cragg, Salvador Dali, Gene Davis, Ronald Davis, Stuart Davis, Edgar Degas, Devajiti Ray, J. DeFeo, Robert Delany, Sonia Delany, Charles Demuth, André D. Rain, Giorgio de Vincenzi, Richard D. Bencorn, Jim Dine, Otto Dix, Theo van Doesburg, Jean Dubuffet, Marcel Duchamp, Elizabeth Durack, Elena Drobichevska-Jar, Friedel Zubers, Alexandra Ixter, James Ensor, Max Ernst, M. C. Escher, Demetrios Pharmakopoulos, Paul Feely, Lionel Feininger, Pavel Filinov, Alan Florisic, Sam Francis, Jane Frank, Helen Frankine Tholler, Lucian Freud, Wilhelmina Weber Furlong, 1878–1962, Naum Gabo, Joaquin Torres Garcia, Paul Gauguin, Elka Gido, Nina Jenk Melmer, Gunter Gerzso, Alberto Giacometti, Sam Gilliam, William Glackens, Vincent van Gogh, Elias Goldberg, Michael Goldberg, Natalia Gonkarova, Robert Goodenough, Arshile Gorky, Jozef Goslowski, Adolf Gottlieb, Nancy Graves, Cleve Gray, Stephen Green, Juan Gris, Red Grooms, George Gross, Oswaldo Guasamin, Ismet Gunny, Philip Guston, Elaine Hamilton, Richard Hamilton, Dwayne Hanson, Grace Hartigan, Raoul Hausman, Michael Heiser, Patrick Hennessy, Barbara Hepworth, Patrick Heron, Eva Hess, Hannah Hodge, David Hockney, Howard Hodgkin, Francis Hodgkins, Hans Hofmann, Edward Hopper, Istvan Hawkau, Ralph Hoter, John Hoyland, Friedens Reich Twasser, René Ish, Leiko Ikamura, Robert Indiana, Augustus John, Jasper Johns, Ray Johnson, Joan Jonas, Astrid Jorn, Donald Judd, Frida Kahlo, Wolf Kahn, Wassily Kandinsky, Tobak Turi, Rachel Turi, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, Paul Klee, Gustav Klimt, Eve Klein, Franz Klein, Hilma af Klint, Ivan Kliam, Oskar Kokoschka, Willem de Kooning, Albert Cotton, Lee Krasner, Nicholas Krushenik, Frantijs Kupka, Kyung Hee Hong, born 1954, sculptor, Wilfredo Lam, Ronnie Landfield, John Latham, Jacob Lawrence, Fernand Léger, Alfred Leslie, Sol LeWitt, Roy Lichtenstein, Richard Lippold, Charles Logasser, Alfred Lochsmittler, Maurice Louis, Stanton MacDonald Wright, August Mack, René Magritte, Aristide Maillol, Casimir Malevich, Edouard Manet, Robert Mangold, Top Mans, P. Romanzini, Franz Marc, Conrad Marcarelli, Bryce Marden, John Marin, Marino Marini, Chris Marker, Agnes Martin, Eugene J. Martin, Knox Martin, Andre Masson, Henri Matisse, Roberto Matta, Gordon Matta Clark, Mikulas Medek, Vadim Melmer, Arna Mendiatar, Carlos Merida, Mario Mirtz, Manolo Millers, Joan Miro, Joan Mitchell, Stanley Matthew Mitruk, Amidio Modigliani, Laszlo Mulinegi, Luis Molinari, Piet Mondrian, Claude Monet, Henry Moore, Giorgio Morandi, Gustave Moreau, Robert Motherwell, Alphonse Mucha, Edvard Munch, Bruce Norman, Manuel Neri, G. P. Nally, Louise Nevelson, Neith Nevelson, Roy Newell, Barnett Newman, Alexander Ney, Jan Nguyenes, Solomon Nikritin, Osamu Noguchi, Kenneth Noland, Emile Nolder, Brian O'Doherty, Georgia O'Keeffe, Claes Oldenburg, Jules Olitsky, Nathan Oliveira, Namjoon Paik, Nkita Saintful, Eduardo Paolozzi, David Park, Ray Parker, George Parsentino, Waldo Park, Iris Pereira, Francis Picabaya, Pablo Picasso, Jackson Pollock, Larry Poons, Lyubov Popova, Fuller Potter, Sura Rababy, Robert Rauschenberg, Man Ray, Clement Fritko, Peter Reginato, Ad Reinhardt, Manuel Rendon, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Bohuslav Renek, Gerard Richter, Bridget Riley, Diego Rivera, Alexander Rudchenko, Auguste Rodin, Olga Rozanova, James Rosenquist, Mark Rothko, Susan Rothenberg, Henri Rousseau, Veronica Ruiz de Velasco, Edward Rusher, Albert Pinkham Ryder, Egon Schiele, Oskar Schlemmer, Kurt Schwitters, George Siegel, Richard Serra, Pablo Serrano, Georges Pierre Surratt, Ben Shahn, Charles Sheila, Sally Shainman, Harry Sherberg, Paul Signock, Joseph Simer, David Smith, Tony Smith, Robert Smithson, Jones Snyder, James Soutine, Vaclav Spiller, Austin Usman Spare, Nicholas de Stale, Theodoros Stamos, Frank Stella, Joseph Stella, Clifford Still, Jindrich Stysky, Graham Sutherland, Patrick Swift, Enrique Tubera, Atsuko Tanaka, Dorothea Tanning, Anthony Tapiz, Vladimir Tatlin, Paul Thek, Wayne Thibaud, William Tillier, Jean Tingley, Alton Toby, Mark Toby, Bradley Walker Tomlin, Toyin, Richard Tultul, C. Twombly, Nadezhda Abdoltseva, Rafael Alfonso Umana Mendes, Victor Vasseli, Vladimir Vasisk, Annabel Villasees, Juan Vilfuert, Kerit Savis Sulsver, Oswaldo Viteri, Maurice de Vlaminck, Wolf Vostel, Edouard Verlard, Andy Warhol, Ilse Weber, Tom Wesselman, Jan Diary Wysocki, James Abbott McNeil Whistler, Thornton Willis, Isaac Whitkeen, Grant Wood, Andrew Wyeth, Zul Solar, Taro Yamamoto, Peter Young, Larry Zox, Jan Zlzavy. See also, Art, List of painters, List of contemporary artists, Modernist project.